So you want to run faster, run pain-free? Well, a big part of that is improving your running form. So today I want to look at foot strike, how your foot hits the ground, and talk about some of the mistakes I see people making and how we can all improve. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is how a lot of runners, and the majority of runners, do run with their foot landing heel first. So they land as a heel striking runner, and there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, and I'll explain why in a second, but they combine the fact that they're heel striking with the fact they're overstriding, so landing with the foot too far out in front of an extended knee here. That essentially slams the brakes on with each stride, puts more strain through the knee and the hip into the lower back, and really does start to create this inefficient running stride where you're having to overcome the decelerative forces before you can then get over the top of that landing foot and push off onto the next stride. Now, what we don't want to see is the combination of heel strike and overstride, but what we are okay with seeing is someone landing with a heel strike underneath a flexing knee. So a shorter stride usually comes with a quicker turnover, so a faster cadence, and that really does start to negate a lot of the excess braking force that comes with an overstride here and just put you in a position where your body can continue moving forwards over the top of this flexing knee, over the top of the light heel strike, onto the next stride. So first things first, have a look if your Garmin or your whatever device you're using gives you some cadence data. Have a look at whether your cadence is down in the 160s, 150s as we see from some people. For lots of you it will be. And think about whether that's something you can elevate nice and easily. Because as we increase your cadence by making shorter, quicker strides, and again, there's a video right over here, which I will link to, which you can go and find out more information about how to improve your cadence, how to increase your cadence. But by making shorter, quicker strides, it will stop you from overstriding and get you into a position where you're able to land that foot nicely underneath a flexing knee. Now, the second mistake we see people making is not to do with your classic heel strike. Again, I said it's fine to come away from a heavy heel strike, but still heel strike. But if you're a forefoot striking runner, if you find yourself landing on the balls of your feet, well, the problem we see people making isn't the fact that they're landing on the balls of the feet, it's the fact they're landing too high up on the balls of their feet. They're in a position where they're remaining fairly plantar flexed the whole way through stance phase, the whole way through the phase while the foot's on the ground. Now, if you don't allow that heel to come down to the ground after initial contact, so if you don't allow this gentle lowering and the kiss of the heel to touch the ground before you lift off, you're going to be placing a lot more stress and strain on your calves and your Achilles tendon. And again, that's a common factor I see again and again with forefoot striking runners who have Achilles problems, calf problems, is that when you look at their running, they're very, very aggressive. And it's that aggressive nature of the forefoot strike that really we want to start to dial back on. I don't want to see people, whether we're talking forefoot strike or heel strike, I don't want to see people at extremes. So the extreme for a forefoot strike is someone right up on their toes like a sprinter, albeit they're a distance runner. And the extreme for a heel striking runner would be someone who's landing way ahead of themselves, toes up towards the sky here on an almost extended knee, overstriding. Again, we don't want to see either of those extremes. Instead, we could see someone with a light little heel strike underneath the flexing knee, or a gentle little almost midfoot strike where they're landing still balls of the feet first, but the heel comes down and kisses. Now again, that too happens underneath a flexing knee. Now, the third mistake I see people making all too often is that they try and force themselves into a kind of a mold that their body isn't ready for when it comes to running form, particularly when it comes to foot strike. So if you know that you're a heel striking runner and perhaps you've read a book, perhaps you've read an article online that suggests that we'd all benefit from running forefoot. And again, we're all so different. I don't believe there is a one-size-fits-all solution, but if you've read something, you're motivated to go out and change and try this new style of running, and all of a sudden you go from being this guy or girl to trying to be this guy or girl, of course, your body's going to be loading differently, the muscles are going to experience different stresses and strains, the tendons also, and you're going to, in many cases, start feeling, well, the classic is feeling tightness through your calves. Instead, what I would rather you do, instead of making that mistake of trying to almost become this square peg in a round hole, I would embrace the way in which your body is put together, embrace your own strengths and weaknesses, because we all run as a kind of an expression of our own individual strengths and weaknesses, and try and refine what your body already knows what to do well. So if you're a heel striking runner, try and focus on becoming a lighter heel striking runner without overstriding, just by dialing the cadence up a little bit. If you're a forefoot striking runner and you find yourself naturally right up on your toes, try, especially if you're trying to run longer distances, try to dial that back to a point where you can just feel that yes, you're landing on the balls of your feet, it still feels light, it still feels springy, but you can feel that you're coming down and allowing the whole foot to load. You feel the heel kiss before you then move on. That for me made such a difference. I'm a tall guy, okay? I'm not your classic runner's build, and I do find myself right up on the balls of my feet because I've got relatively poor ankle dorsiflexion, poor movement in that direction. Now, as I started training for marathons, found that whilst I could get away with being right up on my toes for 5K, 10K, all of a sudden I had to dial that back because the longer runs, those 14, 16, 18 mile runs, if I was right on the front of my foot, my calves would hate me. So instead, learning just to find a bit more of a middle ground made all the difference. Now, I mentioned cadence, I mentioned stride length as well. If you'd like to see a video in terms of how to improve your stride length with one really simple, easy tip, check out the video right over here. Let me know if you found this video helpful by hitting the like button, and if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future videos, and I'll speak to you soon.